from the Poison Pen, Scottsdale's Mystery Bookstore. Welcome to another event in our ongoing criminal calendar, which we do with City Cable 7 and the Scottsdale Public Library. It's a series of interviews with mystery writers, and we've been privileged to have, among others, Carl Hyacin, James Lee Burke, P.D. James, Robert Parker, and Judith Van Giesen. Today we have with us Lisa Scottoline, an award-winning author who is a lawyer from Philadelphia. Lisa, when we first met, it was in New York at the Edgar ceremony.
That's right, that's right.
And for those of you who don't know, the Mystery Writers of America annually present an award for best book in several categories that is selected by other mystery writers. So it's a most prestigious award. And Lisa, when I met her in New York in 1993,
that's right,
was a nominee for Best Paperback Original Mystery for her very first mystery novel, which was Everywhere That Mary Went. Were you panicked?
No, I was too thrilled to be panicked. Well, I was in New York City, and so I'm actually out of the house, dressed up in makeup in New York City. It was really, it doesn't get a lot better than that, except for Scottsdale, of course. So I was, for my first book, to be honored that way, I was really thrilled.
It is a rare event. There are only 5 normally. Is that about right? 5 nominees?
Yes.
Sometimes it varies a little, but it's remarkable for a writer to be selected out of probably 300 new mysteries a year, something in that range, to be one of the 5 considered for Best Paperback Original. Really is a remarkable honor. That particular year, you didn't win Everywhere That Mary Went. This is a story that gets better, so I could ask you
it had
to...
a happy ending, that's right. That was the year, I was excited because it was my first book, and to have your first book singled out in any way for that kind of honor was really wonderful, particularly, as you say, since I had made a career change. I had risked a career that I really enjoyed. I'm probably the only lawyer in the world who really enjoyed practicing law. And so when that nomination came through, I thought maybe I actually didn't do the stupidest thing in the world by giving up a career I loved, and also one that supported me and my child. So I lost it that year. I did. I got to say it was really great just to be nominated.
Don't you hate it?
It's totally untrue.
I absolutely hate, interviewers who say to you, and how did it feel to lose the Super Bowl? And I say, how do you think it felt?
Get that microphone out of my face.
And then, next year, 1994, Lisa and I once again met at the annual Edgar's banquet, and once again, Lisa was a nominee, this time for her second book, Final Appeal, for the same category, Best Paperback Original, and this time,
yay,
you won. And so, was it really just, did you even care at that point, having been through it once, and there you were again?
I absolutely cared. I cared that I was really, I was thrilled to be nominated the second time, because then again, maybe people who are more confident, these things don't mean anything to them, and they know their work is terrific without aid of reviews or people saying, I really liked your book. But that was just somebody saying to me, we really liked Final Appeal. And when the second nomination happened, I thought maybe I can do this consistently, which is actually my goal, to write really terrific books one after the other. That's what I want to do. So it was really nice to win that. It was nice to win it.
Well, I liked it. Everywhere That Mary Went's been one of our Poison Pen bestsellers all along. We are crazy about it. And being a mystery bookstore and wanting to encourage people to read authors in what we like to think is the best way. We usually start people with the first book that an author writes, and it's always going to outsell your first book, all your other books in our store, for that very reason.
Well, so that's great. I think that's interesting, actually. If you, well, I have favorite authors, of course, and I go back and I read them all, whether they're series or not. And I'd read an article, someone was talking about a study of the first novel, everybody's first novel, and what happens in a first novel. And I guess you make mistakes, but I actually think there's so much heart in a first novel that there's something that's always special about it. Yeah, I'm tempted to say like a first love, but that sounds very corny. But there's something like that actually happening.
I think so, and I think the reader at the same time has a fresh experience with a new voice that is never quite the same subsequently.
I bet
once
that's
you've
right.
met them. I'm finding that more and more, that there's just something really special when you fall in love with a voice or whatever in the first book, even though you like the subsequent books. For me, anyway, it's very hard to be quite so rapturous.
That's actually true, because when I think about people that I really like, it's the first books that I remember. And sometimes there'll be one down the line that I'll go, wow, he did that again, or she did that again, but there's some real warmth there about the first one.
Absolutely. You alluded just a moment ago to the fact that you made a career change. Can you go back and, since that's something you and I have discussed, but our listeners haven't heard about it. You were a practicing attorney in Philadelphia, right?
I was. We tell them that at great risk, though, because the opinion of lawyers being what it is. I was a trial lawyer in Philadelphia, and I really liked it, and worked in a big firm, and had a booming marriage and a pretty good career, and then a baby came along, which was really a wonderful event. At least in my mind, my husband was less excited about it. And I think what happened was I decided that I really wanted to be home with her. And I really wanted to leave my job and change everything, and that caused some strains. And so the marriage, unfortunately, didn't survive that. But it was one of those things that turns out to be a blessing in disguise, because I had always wanted to write, having been an English major and loving books. And said, this is the time to do it. You're broke, you have no alimony, you're living on, I lived on credit cards to do it. I actually didn't used to tell that, but I think that's a good thing to tell, because first people say, a lot of people want to write, and say, how do you support yourself? Right. And the answer, at least for me, was at 18% interest on a visa. Unbelievable when I look back, but a great gamble. And in truth, people every day who start businesses, as you know, bet on themselves. They mortgage their houses, they take loans out, and it occurred to me that authors should not be any different. And I was willing to take that risk to a certain extent. I had a limit of, I had 5 credit cards at $10,000 limit piece. You have $50,000 to go down in flames or to succeed. And at 38 grand in debt, everywhere that Mary went was sold. So it was the best 18% interest I ever spent. I mean.
And you know, there's something, don't you think, about an absolute deadline like that that forces you to sit down and get the work out? You can't be a dilettante.
Absolutely.
You can't just keep procrastinating.
That's right, because it's borrowed money. And also, if you have a child, you know that eventually your child's tuition. So you're really playing with fire to a certain extent. And I think also, women in particular, I'm not sure that we take risks so well or that we invest in ourselves so well. And so I thought, you know, this is important to do, and the fact that it was done on credit, the fact that it had a limit, not only motivated me, but also gave me permission in a way to sort of say, all right, you're not going to go down the tubes, you're not going into bankruptcy, but you're going to try to make something happen. It was a gamble, worked out.
And you said, I believe when you and I were talking yesterday, that you got a paperback original contract. Mm-hmm. Can you say what is different about publishing in that format as opposed to a hardcover format?
Well, I started writing about the time John Grisham got hot, and I was as a woman lawyer, I always said, why aren't women trial lawyers writing these? So I gave it a try, and that book everywhere was sold at auction, which meant that there were several houses bidding. In mm-hmm. that mix was a house that wanted to publish me in hardcover, and house HarperCollins that wanted to publish me in paper to start with, and I chose paper because I really wanted a long-run career out of it, and I knew that as an unknown with a name like Scottoline. My father says rhymes with fettuccine, and I think that works. That you can remember.
It's Italian anyway.
That's right. I'm an entree.
That's it.
But I wasn't sure that, especially in that economy, that people would go for a hardback. And I really wanted to be read. I wanted the book in people's hands because I really thought it was a good book, and if they'd read it, if they read it, they'd like it. So we went paper, and the first 2 books were in paperback only. And now I'm graduated. I got to, you know, feel all the great pretense and snobism that people feel when they go on hardback. But I would not do that differently.
Well, and it works particularly well for you, I think, because your books are not a continuing series. They are standalone books in the sense of each character is unique to that book, and of course each plot, as all mystery should be, right, is unique to that book. On the other hand, although you are not writing a series character like Dick Francis, you do have a kind of a continuing character who is Italian.
Yes. I'm not going to write what you know school.
Yeah, right.
And although I think there's nuance, there's certainly differences in personality. The protagonist in all 4 of my books is a woman trial lawyer